The twists and turns on the campaign trail continue as politicians across party lines clamor for votes. With split ticket voting a possibility again, Democrats believe they could flip the Senate back to blue. Trump is visiting Pennsylvania and North Carolina today, two states that he needs, which are two of the states that could change. We'll see about that. Joining us right now is chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, Byron York. Byron, good to see you.
Good morning, Maria.
So let's talk about the down ballots. I mean, will Trump's campaigning help Senators Pat Toomey and Richard Burr, for example, today?
That's a really good question, because what you see in all of the races where Republicans are vulnerable, the Trump factor is the biggest factor in the race. And everybody who's running for Senate, every Republican running for Senate has had to take a position on Donald Trump. Support him, not support him, kind of support him. And it can be actually difficult. Pat Toomey and Richard Burr in North Carolina, Toomey in Pennsylvania, two of the most endangered Republicans, both of them a little bit ahead in the polls right now. And if they survive, then Republicans probably keep control of the Senate.
I guess Trump is a catalyst for voters reconsidering straight ticket voting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've heard from strategists in the states, Republican strategists, who are encouraged by the evidence they see in their focus groups and their research, that a lot of voters actually do not equate Trump with whoever the Republican candidate is in their state. They kind of separate it because they don't really view Trump as a Republican as much. They view him as Trump. And so it's entirely possible for them to vote either for or against Trump and then go and vote their preference for a Republican senator.
Byron, it's Dagen McDowell. Do you think that the Trump talk about the election being rigged hurts voter turnout for even him?
Probably not. As a matter of fact, I think you might be able to look at it as the opposite, as kind of Trump's version of get out the vote. He doesn't have the millions that Democrats are spending to physically get voters to the polls. And this is his way of saying, hey, they're trying to steal it. You've got to vote. You've got to vote. If you listen to Trump's speeches, he always includes a portion in the speech where he says, you know, election day is everything. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if you're on your deathbed. You got to get up and vote. And they're trying to steal this election is kind of an incentive that Trump is putting out for his own voters.
Gotcha.
Is it an incentive, or is he concerned about losing? And you know, that does make sense to me. That talking point that I keep hearing does make sense.
Oh, well, it's certainly a rationale for losing, and he can say afterwards that it was rigged. But, you know, the one thing he said in the speech in Ohio yesterday was that, of course, I will accept the results of a clear-cut election. And, you know, if the polls are correct and he loses by 7 points, no way to claim that it's rigged. Rigged only works in a close election.
I think his supporters still might, though.
Well, look, there have been a lot of Republicans who believe that Democrats were practicing voter fraud over the years. Certainly in 2000 and 2004, you had a lot of Democrats suggesting that Republicans had rigged the election. And there were some Democrats who claimed that Karl Rove had personally hacked the electric voting machines in Ohio in 2004. So you've gotten a lot of talk on both sides about that, but it really, I think, will disappear if the election vote is really quite clear-cut.
But go through some of these down ballot races, because look, there's a worry that Republicans will lose the Senate. What action do they need to take to maintain control of the Senate? You know, the last couple of weeks we saw a huge market sell-off because investors were afraid that this would be a sweep, President, House, and Senate on the Dem side.
Yeah, well, first of all, the Republicans now have 54 votes in the Senate. So if Democrats win 4 seats, pick up 4 seats, and it's 50-50, and Hillary Clinton wins, then they would effectively control the Senate because the vice president, in this case Tim Kaine, would cast the tie-breaking vote for Democrats. We actually had that situation for a few months in 2001. It was a mess. It was a power-sharing agreement between Republicans. Senate was split 50-50. It was resolved when one Republican defected to the Democratic side, gave him a 51-vote majority. So Democrats would much rather pick up 5. A lot of Republicans think that they've probably lost 2 seats already. Mark Kirk in Illinois, Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. Those other ones, the endangered seats, Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire, Toomey, as we talked about in Pennsylvania, Burr in North Carolina. Those are really, really tough seats for Republicans to defend. If they were to lose them all, they lose the Senate.
Wow. All right, Byron. Great analysis as always. Good to see you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much. Byron York joining us there. By the way, you can relive all of the excitement from the third and final debate this weekend. Fox Business Network is re-airing the final presidential showdown Saturday and Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So